The greatest project you will ever undertake is not your career. It is not your business. It is not your bank account, your title, or the applause you chase. The greatest project you will ever undertake is you. Because no matter how far you climb in the world, if the soul behind the success is starving, it will all collapse under the weight of what you neglected. Success, real success, starts with self-mastery. Work harder on yourself than you do on your job, and the job will take care of itself. You see, the world pays you not merely for what you do, but for who you become in the process. You don't get rich by working harder than everyone. You get rich by becoming someone more valuable than you were yesterday. And value doesn't come from the title on your business card. It comes from the depth of your thinking, the strength of your discipline, the clarity of your vision, the fire in your spirit. Your job pays your bills, but your growth pays your destiny. Most people wake up every day racing to meet deadlines, to please bosses, to chase numbers. They treat themselves like machines, useful only as long as they can produce. They run from task to task, email to email, never stopping to ask the one question that can change it all. Who am I becoming? Because if you build your job but neglect your character, your resume might grow, but your soul will shrink. Your reputation might expand, but your capacity for peace will wither. That's the trap. And millions are in it. Exhausted, burnt out, bitter, because they worked harder on their image than on their identity. But not you. Not anymore. You are the sculptor in the stone. You are the architect in the foundation. You are the worker and the work. And if you truly decide to make yourself your masterpiece, then no circumstance, no economy, no boss, no rejection can stop what's coming. This isn't about arrogance. This is about alignment. It's about realizing that you are not here to serve a title. You are here to build a temple one brick of character at a time. So let's begin where all greatness begins, with mindset. Your mind is not a vessel to be filled with noise. It is a forge, a sacred space where thoughts are cast into beliefs and beliefs become behavior. The greatest advantage you can ever give yourself is to take command of your inner dialogue. Because every action you take, every risk you avoid, every dream you pursue or abandon flows from one source, the story you believe about yourself. And if that story is one of limitation, of fear, of waiting until you're ready, then even the greatest opportunity will feel like a threat. But if your story is forged in possibility, if your mindset is trained to see challenge as fuel, not fire, then your external world will begin to mirror your internal truth. This is the law. The inner always creates the outer. So guard your mind like it's sacred, because it is. Feed it with books that awaken you. Surround it with people who stretch you. Challenge it with questions that disrupt your comfort. The mind, like a muscle, grows through resistance. The more you train it, the more it begins to work for you, not against you. And once the mind is aligned, the next layer reveals itself: belief. Belief is not just something you have, it's something you build. You weren't born doubting yourself. You were taught to, conditioned by failure, by fear, by people who settled before they ever tried. But belief can be reclaimed, reforged. It's a decision to see yourself not as you are, but as you could be. It's the courage to walk into the unknown, not because it's safe, but because it's yours. Most people wait for proof before they believe. They wait for the promotion before they feel valuable. They wait for the applause before they trust their voice. But belief doesn't come after success. It creates success. It is the invisible root that gives rise to visible fruit. And here's the truth. If you can't see it in your mind, you'll never hold it in your hand. So build belief through evidence. Start keeping the promises you make to yourself. Small wins. Daily discipline. When you say you'll do something, do it. Not for the world, for you. Every time you follow through, you cast a vote for the identity you are becoming. And the more votes you cast, the more powerful your belief becomes. Until one day you stop asking, "Can I?" and start declaring, "I will." Then comes clarity. Clarity is power, not noise, not hustle, not being busy. Clarity, knowing why you do what you do, knowing what matters and what doesn't. Most people fail not because they're weak, but because they're scattered. They chase too many things. They say yes to every distraction. They drown in obligations that don't align with their mission. But when you have clarity, you become dangerous. You say no without guilt. You cut ruthlessly. You protect your priorities like sacred ground. Because when the path is clear, decisions are simple. Discipline is easy, and progress becomes inevitable. You don't need to do more. You need to do less, with more focus, more intention, more conviction. Success isn't about doing everything. It's about doing the right things with everything you've got. And from that clarity, vision is born. Vision is not a goal. Vision is a picture of your future, so compelling, so vivid, so emotionally charged that it pulls you forward when motivation fades, when the alarm rings, when the failure stings, when the world laughs. Vision is the lighthouse in the storm. And here's what most people miss. Your vision must be yours, not your parents', not your industry's, not society's, yours. It must come from the deep place within that knows what makes you come alive. Because you can fake motivation, you can fake discipline, but you can't fake soul. And if your dream doesn't have soul, it will never survive the struggle. So write it down. See it in your mind, taste it, touch it, live in it every single day. Because when the vision is clear, the grind becomes sacred. And you begin to work not just for outcomes, but from alignment. And when vision takes hold, purpose ignites. Purpose is not found. Purpose is chosen. It is not a lightning bolt. It is a fire you build brick by brick with your own hands. Purpose says, my life is not random. My days are not accidents. I am here for something. It doesn't have to be flashy. It doesn't have to be loud, but it must be real. Because when you know your purpose, pain has meaning. Sacrifice becomes sacred, and struggle becomes part of the story you want to tell. You stop asking, what do I have to do today? And you start asking, who can I become through what I do today? And that question leads to the door most never enter. Discipline. Discipline is not punishment. Discipline is self-respect. It is the declaration that your future matters more than your feelings, that your standards matter more than your mood, that your destiny matters more than your distractions. Discipline is the bridge between dreams and results. It's waking up when you said you would, showing up when no one's watching, repeating the reps when nobody's cheering. It's the quiet work, the unsexy work, the lonely work, but it's the work that works. You don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems, and your systems are built by discipline. Discipline is remembering that every action is a seed, and though you may not see the harvest today, the soil remembers. Life remembers. And in time, it rewards the ones who kept sowing when the field looked barren. And when discipline becomes identity, action flows like water. You no longer need to be pushed because you've become pulled, not by pressure, but by purpose. You stop waiting for the right time, the right mood, the right conditions. You act because you are the kind of person who acts. And here's the beauty. Small actions compound. A single choice, repeated daily, becomes a habit becomes a lifestyle, and a lifestyle becomes a destiny. You become what you do repeatedly, not what you say, not what you wish, what you do, every day, in the dark, when no one's watching. That's where identity is forged. That's where greatness is born. And once action becomes your nature, gratitude becomes your compass. Not the shallow kind of gratitude, the kind that's paraded on holidays or posted for likes. No, I'm talking about the kind of gratitude that humbles you, the kind that brings you to your knees in the quiet moments and makes you whisper, thank you for this breath, for this challenge, for this chance to grow. Gratitude is not a reaction. It's a posture, a lens, a discipline of seeing power in what others overlook. Because when you train your eyes to find the gift, even pain becomes treasure. Even failure becomes a teacher. Even the waiting becomes preparation. You see, life doesn't give you more because you demand it. Life gives you more because you appreciate what you already have. You don't attract abundance by chasing it. You attract it by honoring what's already in your hands. That's the paradox. You rise higher the moment you ground deeper. You elevate not because you fight for more, but because you cherish what you already stand on. Gratitude unlocks perspective. And perspective is the oxygen of resilience. Because when the storms come, and they will, gratitude is what anchors you. When the clients vanish, when the deal falls through, when the people betray, gratitude keeps your heart from turning bitter. It protects the gold inside you from the rust of resentment. And that gold is what must adapt, because nothing alive stays the same. Growth demands evolution. Success is not static. It is dynamic, fluid, ever-shifting, and so must you be. Adaptability is the superpower of the wise. The ones who cling to old ways, old stories, old identities they break. But the ones who stay fluid, who flow like water through the cracks of change, they bend, but they do not break. They pivot, but they never panic. Adaptability is not weakness. It is power under pressure. It's the ability to keep your mission while changing your method. To hold tight to your purpose while letting go of your pride. To evolve, not because you're uncertain, but because you're unshakable. The oak tree looks strong, but it snaps in a hurricane. The reed, though fragile, bends with the wind and survives. Be the reed. Be the force that flows. And when change shakes your life, resilience holds your ground. Resilience is not the absence of pain, it is the refusal to be ruled by it. It's the inner steel that says, this storm will not bury me, it will build me. Resilience doesn't need applause. It doesn't post its struggle. It doesn't ask for pity. It shows up. Bleeding, perhaps. Bruised, maybe, but never broken. Because when you work harder on yourself than you do on your job, you become unbreakable from within. The world can take your job, your title, your income, but it cannot take your becoming. And that becoming is what keeps rising, long after others would have quit. Every setback you survive, every disappointment you outlast, adds another layer to your armor. Not the kind of armor that hardens your heart, but the kind that strengthens your spirit. So when the dream delays, don't despair. When the results are slow, don't retreat. When the road gets dark, don't curse. It light your own fire. Become the one who walks forward even when the map is missing. And let that fire be fueled by learning. Lifelong learning isn't a luxury, it's your edge. The moment you think you've arrived is the moment you begin to fall. Because the world never stops changing. And neither can you. Learn from everyone. Learn from failure. Learn from feedback. Learn from the janitor and the CEO. From the ancient and the young, from the past and the present. Don't let your pride blind you. Don't let your ego defend ignorance. Stay curious. Stay humble. Stay hungry. Every book you read, every mentor you listen to, every moment you reflect, that's another seed of greatness being planted in your soil. The question is, will you water it? Will you show up day after day, not to impress the world, but to improve yourself? Because in the end, it's not what you do that matters most. It's who you become while doing it. Jobs will come and go. Markets will rise and fall. But character, discipline, belief, vision, these are the eternal currencies of a meaningful life. So let the world see your success, but let the foundation of that success be your inner work. Work harder on your character than on your compensation. Work harder on your growth than on your goals. Work harder on your principles than on your profits. Because what you build in you, no one can ever take away. And when you live like this, when you truly live from the inside out, something begins to shift. People start noticing. Opportunities start finding you. Doors you never even knocked on begin to open. Not because you were lucky, not because you were loud, but because you became the kind of person those doors open for. So if you want to raise your incomes, your standards, If you want to lead others first, lead yourself. If you want to change your results, change your rituals. Because in the quiet hours when no one is watching, when the applause has faded and the spotlight has dimmed, that is where the real work begins. And if you dare, if you're bold enough to make that work your mission, if you decide once and for all to work harder on yourself than you do on your job, then I promise you this: your life, your impact, your legacy will rise to meet you. You will notice that what once felt like struggle now feels like preparation. That the weight you once cursed was only there to carve the strength you carry now. That the nights of doubt, the mornings of silence, the countless repetitions in the dark, they were never punishment. They were a refining fire. Because the true prize was never the job. It was never the status. It was never the number in the bank. The prize was who you became through the process. And the greatest tragedy is not failure at success without fulfillment. It's reaching the top of the mountain only to realize you brought a stranger with you, yourself. That's why the inner work matters. Because it ensures that when you win, it is you who wins. The authentic you, the whole you, the you that didn't sell your soul for speed, the you that didn't abandon your principles for applause, the you that stayed grounded while everything around you was changing, the you that kept building when no one believed, the you that kept rising when everything screamed, give up, the you that remembered, I am not here to perform, I am here to transform. And with that transformation comes something no job can ever offer you: freedom. Not just financial freedom, not just time freedom, but internal freedom. The freedom to walk into any room without needing to be liked. The freedom to speak your truth without fear of rejection. The freedom to choose your path, not because it's safe, but because it's yours. That kind of freedom is forged in the furnace of inner work. You won't find it in a job description. You won't learn it in a weekend seminar. You won't stumble upon it accidentally. You earn it, brick by brick, choice by choice, day by day. And here's the final truth. The world doesn't need more people chasing jobs. It needs more people becoming alive. Because a job can build a career, but only self-work builds a life. So if today you are tired, if you are stuck, if you feel like the dream is too far, too big, too heavy, let me tell you this: you are not broken. You are becoming. You are not behind. You are building. You are not lost. You are being led by something deeper than titles, deeper than money, deeper than even success. You are being led by a call that says, make your life a masterpiece. Let your days be your testimony. Build something no one can take away. Work harder on yourself than you do on your job, and watch what happens. And if you do, you will not just change your results. You will not just change your income. You will not just change your circumstances. You will change your identity. You will walk differently, think differently, love differently, lead differently. And that difference, that inner transformation, will ripple into everything you touch. That's how movements begin. That's how legacies are born. And that's how the world is changed. Not by titles, not by systems, but by one person who decided to rise. One person who said, my job will not define me. My habits will, my values will, my vision will. So let today be the line. Let today be the moment you stop outsourcing your greatness. Let today be the declaration that says, I will never again work harder on something outside me than I work on what's inside me. Because when you commit to that kind of life, nothing can stop you. Nothing can break you. Nothing can take from you what you've earned within. The world will try to distract you, to impress you, to seduce you with shortcuts, with vanity, with applause. Ignore it. Get quiet, get clear, get real, and do the work that only you can do the work on you. Because that is the real job. That is the sacred labor. That is the one investment that compounds without fail, without fear, without permission. So get to work and don't ever stop. And as you keep going deeper than motivation, deeper than discipline, you will begin to discover something even more powerful. Identity. Not the identity they gave you. Not the one written on your resume or worn like a uniform. Not the mask you wear to survive, to fit in, to be approved. But the real one, the ancient one, the one that existed before the world taught you how to shrink. That identity is not built, it is revealed. And it is revealed through the fire of becoming. Because every time you choose growth over comfort, truth over image, excellence over average, you strip away the layers that were never you. And what's left is the pure core, not the role you play, not the version of you others tolerate, but the real you, the one with iron in your words and fire in your breath. That identity is your foundation. And once you've built it, no job, no economy, no trend can shake it. Because it doesn't depend on what you do, it flows from who you are. And once you operate from that level, you stop needing permission. You stop waiting for someone to crown you worthy. You stop negotiating with mediocrity. You become the source. You walk into rooms not to impress, but to impact. You don't talk louder, you speak deeper. You don't run faster, you move with certainty. Because you've built something on the inside that no title could ever match. You become dangerous. Not because of your aggression, but because of your alignment. Not because of your ambition, but because of your awareness. You know who you are. You know what you stand for. And you will not be moved. That is the level where influence is born. Not from charisma, but from clarity. Not from hype, but from integrity. Not from how many follow you, but from how deeply you followed yourself. Because when you become someone of substance, success becomes magnetic. You don't chase it flows. You don't force it unfolds. And the world begins to respond, not to your hustle, but to your frequency. Because you've done the work, the real work. You've paid the price in silence, in sweat, in sacrifice. You've built yourself when no one was clapping, and now the world begins to echo what you've already declared in private. But hear me clearly, this is not the end. There is no finish line. The self is infinite. There is always more to master, always another edge to sharpen, another lie to dismantle, another level of truth to rise into. So don't stop, don't settle, don't shrink just because the crowd starts clapping. Keep becoming, keep forging, keep evolving. Because the moment you stop working on yourself, you begin to atrophy. The greatest threat to success is not failure. It is comfort. The most dangerous voice you will ever hear is the one that says you've done enough. No, you've only begun. Because the work you do on yourself echoes beyond your own life. It teaches your children what integrity looks like. It shows your friends what's possible. It inspires strangers you'll never meet. And it sets a standard not just for you, but for everyone who crosses your path. You become a mirror that reflects what's possible when someone decides to take full responsibility for their own life. And that reflection is more powerful than any speech, any strategy, any system. It's the power of a life lived on purpose. So keep sharpening the blade. Keep cleansing the heart. Keep stretching the mind. Keep grounding the soul. Because the more you work on you, the less you need from the world. And the less you need, the more you attract. Not from desperation, but from embodiment. You become the evidence, the proof, the walking permission slip that says, it can be done, it must be done, and it will be done through me. That is what the world needs. Not more resumes, not more noise, not more polished profiles and hollow accomplishments, but more human beings who are whole. More people whose power comes not from what they have, but from who they are. So take that seriously. Make your self-work sacred. Wake up early to master it. Stay up late to guard it. Protect your rituals like your life depends on them, because it does. Because every choice you make either nourishes the masterpiece or neglects it. So ask yourself each day, did I grow today? Did I confront something uncomfortable? Did I stretch past the old version of me? And if the answer is yes, even just a little, then you are winning. Not just in the world, but in the mirror. And that's the only place that truly matters. Because when you win there, the rest follows. Then breathe deep and listen closely, because this is the moment everything changes, not out there, but in here. Not in your circumstances, not in your schedule, not in your salary, in your soul. Because this is the moment you stop negotiating with your lower self. You stop asking the world for permission. You stop waiting for the right time to rise. This is the moment you decide. I am done living as a fraction of who I am. Done shrinking to fit rooms that cannot hold my potential. Done diluting my voice so I don't make others uncomfortable. Done abandoning my own greatness to be accepted by people who haven't even accepted themselves. You don't need another degree to be worthy. You don't need more experience to be dangerous. You don't need another job title to lead. What you need is to decide. Decide that your life is not a rehearsal. Decide that your potential is not a theory. Decide that the real you is not some distant version waiting at the end of a long road. The real you is here, now, ready. But he will not emerge by accident. She will not rise by default. You must call yourself forth with courage, with conviction, with fire in your belly and steel in your spine. You must choose the path few dare to walk, the path of self-responsibility, of radical self-honesty, of daily self-investment. You must choose to rise just once, but every day. Rise when you're tired. Rise when you're scared. Rise when you failed. Rise when you've been overlooked, underestimated, misunderstood, because your job may give you a paycheck, but you give your life meaning. And no one, not your boss, not your parents, not your past, can do that for you. That is your job, your sacred responsibility. So go back to the mirror. Look yourself in the eyes and say, I will work harder on myself than I do on anything else in this life. Because I am the foundation. I am the engine. I am the standard. This life will rise or fall, not by what I do occasionally, but by who I become consistently. And I choose to become unstoppable, unshakable, undeniable, because I am done waiting for change. I am the change. I am the first domino, the shift in my family, the pattern breaker, the curse destroyer, the leader I was waiting for. And I will not stop until my life is the loudest evidence of what's possible when someone works harder on themselves than they do on their job. That is the call. That is the challenge. And that is the choice you must make. Not once, but every single day. So rise and become, because the world has enough employees. It needs more warriors, more leaders, more masters of self. And that is exactly who you were born to be. So start today. Start with one habit, 1 hour, one honest decision, and never stop, because every masterpiece is made of single strokes. Every revolution begins within, and every extraordinary life starts with one vow. I will work harder on myself than I do on my job. Now go and build the life that only you were born to build. The rain doesn't ask permission before it falls. The sun doesn't need applause to rise. And you were not born to be a spectator of your own life. You are not made to drift in circles, to echo excuses, to recite the story others handed to you, and call it fate. You were made to choose. You are not a product of what happened to you. You are not the echo of your environment. You are not the final result of your upbringing, your city, your job title, or your trauma. You are a product of decision, and the decisions you refuse to make, they are building your life as much as the ones you do. Every indecision is a decision. Every hesitation is a direction. Every time you say, I don't know, you've just chosen nothing, and nothing compounds just as fast as something. You see, most people are waiting for better conditions, waiting for more clarity, waiting for some invisible sign that says, now it's your time. But life doesn't work that way. Life doesn't bend for those who hesitate. It only opens to those who decide, those who stand at the crossroads and say, I don't care if I'm scared. I don't care if I'm uncertain. I choose, because that is where power lives. Not in knowing, not in feeling ready, but in deciding anyway. Decision is a blade. It cuts through confusion. It slices away the lies. It tells your future. I am no longer at the mercy of circumstance. I am the maker now. Because let me tell you the truth. Circumstance is not your ceiling. It is your starting line. And the only thing standing between where you are and where you could be is the decision you keep avoiding. The decision to speak, to leave, to stay, to begin, to let go, to rise again. Because the decisions you make in silence will scream louder than any storm you face. Your job is not to know everything. It is not to feel perfect. It is not to have every step mapped. Your job is to decide to move and let movement show you who you are becoming. Because decision is more than a mental shift. It is a soul contract. It is the moment you stop renting your life and start owning it. So what do you believe? Do you believe you are too broken? Too far behind? Too late? That is a decision. And decisions are choices of belief. You can choose differently. You can say, today, I stop blaming what built me. Today, I choose to build myself. You can say, I will no longer major in minor things. I will no longer chase distraction. I will no longer be a victim of a life I refuse to author, because the pen is still in your hand. And the question is not whether you're capable. The question is whether you're willing to pay the price of clarity, willing to face the friction of discipline, willing to risk failure for the possibility of freedom. You see, decision isn't just about progress. It's about identity. Because every decision you make either confirms who you used to be or commits you to who you're becoming. Every day, you get to decide which version of you lives another 24 hours. And the beautiful, brutal truth, that decision is always yours. So yes, let's go deeper. Let's pull the mask off of mindset. Because mindset is not some feel-good buzzword. It is the operating system of your life. It's not what you say you believe when things are going well. It's what you do when everything breaks. And most people, they've outsourced their mindset to circumstance. They feel good when the money flows. They feel strong when they're applauded. They feel certain when the path is smooth. But that's not mindset. That's momentum disguised as meaning. Real mindset, it's forged in friction. It's what whispers we keep going when everything else says stop. It's what says, I choose to see this failure as feedback. I choose to see this delay as data. I choose to see this pain as preparation. Because mindset is a decision, not an emotion, not a personality trait, a choice made daily. And the core of that mindset, belief, not blind belief, not fake confidence, but a grounded, earned, unshakable belief that says, I was not born to drift. I was not built for average. I may have come from circumstance, but I am rising by decision. Belief is the most powerful decision you'll ever make, because your belief becomes your biology. It becomes your behavior. It becomes your reality. And every time you say, I'm not that kind of person, you reinforce the chain that's keeping you bound. But when you say, what if I am? You crack the door to a new life wide open. You see, the story you believe is the life you build. And when belief shifts, everything follows. But belief alone is not enough. You must back it with discipline, because a decision without discipline is just another daydream. Discipline is the declaration that says, my actions don't answer to how I feel. They answer to who I decided to be. Discipline is not punishment. It's not self-denial. It's self-respect. It's the daily demonstration that says, I'm serious about my future. Serious enough to say no to what's easy. Serious enough to build routines that protect my identity, not just my comfort. And the moment discipline locks in, your calendar changes. Your circle tightens. Your words sharpen. Your time becomes sacred. Because now, you don't live by emotion. You live by alignment. And the discipline becomes freedom. Because now, you don't need motivation. You are motivation. You don't ask for clarity, you walk in it. You don't seek validation. You are the standard. This is what decision looks like in motion. Clarity without apology. Conviction without compromise. Consistency without noise. Because this is where your life begins to take form. Not in theory, but in movement. Because decision without action is just noise. Just another thought trapped in your head. Another dream unbuilt. Another potential locked behind someday. But you are not here to wait for someday. You are here to build today. And action is sacred. Action doesn't care how scared you are. It doesn't care how confused you feel. Action only asks one thing. Will you move anyway? Because every action is a vote for who you're becoming. Every workout, every morning you rise before the sun. Every time you say no to what's easy and yes to what's aligned, you are casting a vote for the future that's already calling your name. This is how change compounds. Not by magic, not by motivation, by motion, by doing what others delay, by building when no one's watching, by moving in the dark until the results scream so loud the world can't ignore you anymore. But even action must learn to adapt, because the plan will break. Life will shift. Storms will come, and you will have to bend without breaking. This is where adaptability is born. Not in comfort, but in your willingness to evolve. You stop being romantic about the route. You fall in love with the destination, and you learn how to pivot without losing your posture. Because being adaptable doesn't mean being passive. It means being strategic. You don't give up. You adjust. You don't fall apart. You refocus. You don't shrink. You sharpen. That's resilience. Not bouncing back. Bouncing forward. Resilience says, throw what you want at me. I'll build with it. Resilience isn't about avoiding the fall. It's about choosing what you do when you hit the ground. Most people fall and get bitter. You fall and get better. Because now you're a learner. You study pain. You study mistakes. You study yourself. You know that every challenge is a course, and every setback holds a syllabus of truth. You become obsessed with growth, because the moment you stop learning is the moment you start dying. But now you're alive. Now you are awake. And now you're becoming unbreakable. Because when learning is your lifestyle, there is no loss, only leveling up. So what happens next? You integrate. You don't just do different things. You become someone new. And now you've stopped reacting to life. You've rewritten it. Then let's bring it home. Because this is no longer a speech. It's a summoning. A summoning of the version of you that was buried beneath fear, beneath noise, beneath the illusion that life just happens. You know better now. You know that life doesn't happen to you. It happens through you, through what you decide, through what you repeat, through what you believe when no one is clapping, when no one is watching, when no one even understands what you're building. Because most won't. They won't understand why you disappear to build, why you say no to the weekend, why you stay quiet in rooms that once defined you, why your old excuses no longer work on you. But that's okay. You weren't born to be understood. You were born to understand yourself, and now you do. You understand that discipline is your language. You understand that action is your native tongue. You understand that failure is just feedback, and resistance is the gym where greatness is carved. You understand that belief is not optional. It's oxygen. And now, final, you've decided. You've decided that your life is not a fluke. You've decided that you are not a side character. You've decided that you are not your fears, your doubts, or your past. You are not a product of your environment. You are not a statistic. You are not a shadow of what could have been. You are a product of decision, and decision is destiny made visible. So now you walk different. You speak different. You live different. Not because life got easier, but because you got clearer. Clear about who you are. Clear about what you're building. Clear about what you'll no longer tolerate from the world, from others, from yourself. And that clarity, that decision, that alignment, that's the frequency where everything changes. Because when your philosophy changes, your actions follow. And when your actions change, your outcomes follow. And when your outcomes change, the world responds, not by accident, but by design. Your design, the design that started the moment you said, I am no longer waiting. I am no longer blaming. I am no longer negotiating with smallness. From this day forward, I am no longer a product of circumstance. I am the product of decision. And now the world has no choice but to rise to meet you. You can hire a coach. You can hire a trainer. You can hire a therapist, a strategist, a consultant, a nutritionist, a designer, a writer, a virtual assistant, a whole army of helpers to hold your hand through the darkness. But you cannot, and you will never be able to, hire out the work on yourself. There is no freelancer for your soul, no contractor for your character, no expert for your inner fire, and there is no substitute for the sweat equity required to build a life of substance. You can't delegate pain. You can't outsource discipline. You can't hire someone to face your fears, to rewrite your story, to endure the storm when the roof caves in and the lights go out. This journey of becoming is yours and yours alone. And the sooner you stop looking for shortcuts, the sooner you'll start becoming unstoppable. Because life doesn't respond to what you want. It responds to who you are. And who you are is forged in the invisible hours when no one is watching, when the rewards are nowhere in sight, when quitting would be easier than continuing. It's in those quiet wars that the loud victories are earned. And if you want to live a life that turns heads, you'd better start doing the inner work that breaks hearts wide, open starting with your own. Let me tell you the truth. The world is full of people chasing better tools, better apps, better systems. But the secret is not in the tool sits in the hands that hold them. Success is not a matter of getting more efficient at being mediocre. It's not about speed. It's not about access. It's about depth, depth of presence, depth of hunger, depth of truth. The man who sharpens himself is always more dangerous than the man who buys sharper weapons. You don't get rich by asking someone else to believe in you. You get rich the moment you decide to believe in yourself more than the world believes in comfort. Because the world will sell you comfort at a premium. But growth, that's a debt you pay to your future self. One rep at a time, one uncomfortable conversation at a time, one early morning, one late night, one lonely step at a time. You will not rise by doing less than what's required. You will not become exceptional by reading about it. You will not change your life by hoping, waiting, or wishing someone else would hand you the key. The key is not outside of you. The key is you. And that's the terrifying beauty of it all. Because if the key is you, then you hold the power. And if you hold the power, then the only thing standing between who you are and who you want to be is the work you're still avoiding. There's a reason we'd rather scroll than sit with ourselves. A reason we numb instead of reflect. A reason we procrastinate on the very things that would heal us. It's not laziness, it's fear. Fear that if we really looked in the mirror, we might not like what we see. Fear that if we really told the truth, we might lose the lies we've clung to. Fear that if we did the real work, we'd have no one left to blame. But I'll tell you this, the moment you stop running from yourself is the moment life starts running towards you. Because clarity comes not from asking others what they think, but from sitting with your own chaos long enough to find the signal in the noise. Confidence doesn't come from applause. It comes from alignment. From knowing you are living in a way that does not betray your soul. And purpose? Purpose is not something you discover in a book. It's what you uncover when you strip away everything false. You want more? Be more. Want better? Get better. Want truth? Tell it. Want freedom? Earn it. Every transformation begins with one terrifying question. What if the life I want requires me to become someone I'm not yet? That question will keep you up at night. It will haunt your comfort. It will challenge your identity. But it will also awaken the sleeping giant inside you, the part of you that was never meant to play small, the part that is unbothered by setbacks, unafraid of opinions, uninterested in validation. That's the part of you that already knows. The inner work is not a burden, it's a privilege. It's not punishment, it's purification. You don't build a powerful life by avoiding pain. You build it by choosing meaningful pain over meaningless comfort, by choosing the weight that makes you stronger over the weight that breaks you down. And make no mistake, life will test you. Not because it's cruel, but because it's trying to see what you're made of. And every test is a mirror. Every hardship is a call to rise. Every delay is a sacred pause that asks, will you recalibrate or will you repeat? You can buy time. You can buy knowledge. You can buy followers, likes, even influence, but you cannot buy evolution. You cannot hire grit. You cannot fake hunger. Not for long. The world will see through it. And worse, you'll see through it. You were not put here to impress. You were put here to impact, to walk through fire and come out forged, to become so anchored in who you are that the storms of life only polish you, not dismantle you. But to do that, you must stop avoiding the one job that will change everything, the work on yourself. No one is coming to do your push-ups. No one is coming to change your thoughts. No one is coming to regulate your emotions. No one is coming to enforce your boundaries, to rewrite your patterns, to silence the critic in your head. That's your job, and it always will be. Because the most dangerous belief in the world is that someone else will do it for you, that someone else will fix it, that someone else will carry the weight of your unlived life. They won't. They can't. And deep down, you don't want them to. You want to become someone you're proud of, someone your younger self would look up to, someone your future self will thank. That version of you is waiting, but they are not waiting in comfort. They are waiting on the other side of your excuses. They are waiting in the discomfort you've been dodging, in the books you haven't read, in the truths you haven't faced, in the promises you haven't kept. They are waiting in the mirror, and they are not impressed by potential. They are only moved by progress. The question is, are you willing to face yourself fully, honestly, without filters, without masks, without the need to explain or justify or rationalize your half efforts? Because that's where it starts. In the rawness, in the silence, in the ugly parts, no one claps for. That's where greatness begins, not on a stage, not on a screen, but in the shadows. In the rituals no one sees. In the habits that don't go viral. In the 1,000 quiet choices that make you dangerous not to others, but to every excuse that ever tried to hold you back. You don't need a new plan, you need a new standard. One that makes excuses irrelevant. one that burns your bridges back to mediocrity, one that declares, "This is who I am now, and nothing less will do." You see, most people think success is about motivation. It's not. Motivation is a spark. Standards are the fire. Motivation can get you to the gym. Standards keep you there when it's cold, when it's dark, when no one's watching, and your muscles are screaming for comfort. Motivation wears off. Standards endure. And the standard you set for yourself is the ceiling of your life. You want to change your life fast? Change what you tolerate. Not what you dream of, not what you wish for, but what you allow, what you settle for, what you excuse in yourself when no one's around. That's the line in the sand. That's the true thermostat of your destiny. Because the fastest way to succeed isn't to do more. It's to become someone for whom mediocrity is simply unacceptable. And that begins when you realize no one is coming to save you, but no one is stopping you either. You don't need the world's permission to rise. You don't need everyone's understanding to evolve. You don't need a flawless plan to begin. What you need is a decision. A line in the sand, burn the boats, never going back, kind of decision that says, I don't care how long it takes. I will become the kind of person who can no longer hide behind fear. Because the longer you delay the work, the more you live on borrowed time. And one day you'll look in the mirror and realize that while you were waiting to be ready, life wasn't waiting for you. Time doesn't care how scared you are. Opportunity doesn't knock twice. And your future self is screaming, stop hesitating, start becoming. The difference between those who rise and those who repeat is not talent, it's ownership. It's the willingness to stand in front of the wreckage of your past and say, this is mine, and I will rebuild from here. No more blame, no more victimhood, no more outsourcing responsibility for the shape of your life. This is the work. This is the moment. And this is the beginning of who you were always meant to be. You want to move fast? Clean house. Let go of the distractions disguised as entertainment. Let go of the friendships that run on nostalgia but not growth. Let go of the habits that kill your future in the name of feeling good now. Because the truth is, you are not overwhelmed. You are overcommitted to things that don't matter. You are not lost. You are distracted. You are not stuck. You are afraid to choose. And you are not too late. You are just one decision away from a completely different trajectory. But no one can make that decision for you. It's not about working harder. It's about working on the right thing. And the right thing is you. Every successful person you admire, they didn't get there by skipping the mirror. They didn't rise by outsourcing their self-respect. They didn't win by wishing their problems away. They faced the dragon. They stared into the abyss of their own limitations and refused to blink. That's what greatness looks like. Not perfection, but persistence. Not ease, but endurance. Not hacks, but humility. Because the person who is willing to do the deep, uncomfortable, soul-rearranging work on themselves becomes unstoppable. You can't control how the world responds, but you can control what you bring to it. Your energy, your integrity, your hunger, your level of preparation, your commitment to becoming someone who is undeniable. And that begins with asking the hardest question of all. What am I pretending not to know? That question will break you, but it will also rebuild you. Because in that space where illusions die and truth rises, you will find a version of yourself you forgot was possible. A version that's not addicted to shortcuts, but to strength. Not to applause, but to authenticity. Not to outcomes, but to excellence. A version that leads, not follows. That builds, not borrows. That creates from conviction, not convenience. And that version only emerges when you stop looking outward for answers and start digging inward for the truth. So dig. Dig like your life depends on it. Because it does. Dig until you hit bedrock. Until you find the beliefs you've buried. The pain you've ignored. The brilliance you've silenced. Dig until the lies crack open. And the gold inside you finally sees the light. That's the work. That's the revolution. That's the inner game no one can play for you. You don't need more tools, you need more courage. You don't need more tips, you need more truth. You don't need more help. You need to meet the version of you that has been buried under 1,000 distractions. The version who doesn't make excuses because they've made a decision. The version who doesn't wait for motivation because they've built momentum. The version who doesn't seek perfection because they've chosen power. And once you meet that version of you, you'll never go back. Because you'll realize the highest return on investment you will ever get is from the hours you spend building yourself. So build, not when it's easy, not when it's convenient. Build when it's raining. Build when you're tired. Build when you feel like a fraud. Build through the tears, through the resistance, through the voice in your head that says you're not ready. Because every time you do, that voice gets quieter. And the real you, the powerful you, gets louder. And one day, you'll wake up and realize you didn't just change your habits, you changed your identity. You didn't just build a life, you built a foundation. You didn't just survive, you transcended. Because you did what most won't. You stopped outsourcing the most important job in the world, the job of becoming you. So let the world chase trends. Let the world scramble for tactics. Let the world keep looking for shortcuts while you go straight into the fire. Because that fire, the one that scares most people away, is where your real strength is forged. Not in the moments when everything is going right. Not in the applause or the paycheck or the highlight reel. Your power is born in the silence, in the solitude. In the seconds when you decide that this pain will not break you, it will build you. You don't rise by avoiding discomfort. You rise by choosing it. You rise by making pain your partner, not your prison. Because pain is a teacher, and the student who listens becomes unstoppable. Discomfort is the birthplace of dominance. And if you're not uncomfortable, you're not growing. If you're not stretched, you're stagnant. If you're not scared of your next move, you're not dreaming big enough. You can't hire someone to push past your limits. That's your weight to lift. That's your battle to win. That's your mountain to climb. But here's the good news. You were built for it. Every scar, every failure, every heartbreak, it wasn't the end. It was a beginning. A signal that you were strong enough to face what others run from. A reminder that nothing worth keeping is earned through ease. And the reason it feels heavy is because you're carrying something valuable. Your evolution, your potential, your legacy. So don't put it down. You will be tempted to quit. You will have days where the voice in your head whispers, "Why bother?" And in those moments, you must respond with truth. You must say, "Because I refuse to live a life that was handed to me, I will live a life I earned." That's the voice of a warrior. That's the anthem of those who refuse to die with their dreams still inside them. So no, you can't hire someone to fix your mindset. You can't delegate courage. You can't subcontract the grit it takes to do what's necessary even when it's not easy. But you can decide, right now, that this moment is your turning point. No more pretending. No more half-trying. No more waiting for the perfect time. This is the time. Because you are not behind, you are becoming. You are not broken. You are breaking through. You are not stuck. You are standing at the doorway of your next level. But you've got to walk through it. And that means shedding the skin of who you've been. Letting go of the identities that were never yours. The stories that kept you safe but small. The habits that felt familiar but fatal. You've got to stop defending your limitations. Because every time you say, "That's just how I am," you are reinforcing the very prison you're trying to escape. You are not fixed, you are fluid, you are not your past. You are your potential. You are not your wounds. You are what you do with them. So rise. Not later, not someday. Now. And let the world say, "Who does he think he is?" Let them mock. Let them question. Let them misunderstand. Because you don't need them to get it. You need to get you. You need to know what you stand for, what you're willing to sacrifice, what you're no longer willing to tolerate. And when you lock into that level of clarity, the world bends. Doors open. People show up. Opportunities emerge. Not because the world changed, but because you did. Your energy changed. Your presence changed. Your standard changed. And when your standard changes, your life can't stay the same. But that standard has to come from within, not from pressure, but from principle, not from envy, but from vision, not from desperation, but from destiny. You were not born to chase. You were born to create. And creation begins with cultivation, the internal work of shaping yourself into someone capable of carrying the weight of your own greatness. So do the work in the dark, when it's thankless, when no one cares, when no one claps, when quitting is the easier option. Do the work when you're doubting. Do the work when it's boring. Do the work when you're not sure if it's working. Because here's the secret. It's always working. Not instantly, not loudly, but always. Every rep, every choice. Every morning you get up and act like the person you want to become, it's working. Change doesn't announce itself. It creeps. It compounds. And then one day the world wakes up and calls you an overnight success, but you'll know the truth. You'll know the lonely nights, the battles with your own mind, the times you could have quit but didn't, and you'll smile, not because it was easy, but because it was earned. You'll understand that freedom wasn't a gift, it was a result of doing the one thing no one else could do for you, the work on yourself. So when the world offers you another shortcut, decline it. When it offers you another distraction, delete it. When it hands you a new excuse, destroy it. Because you're not here to escape life. You're here to engage with it fully, fiercely, honestly. And the only way to do that is from the inside out. So don't wait for the pain to force the change. Choose the change. Choose to show up differently, think differently, believe differently, live differently. Because the world doesn't need another echo. It needs an original. And that original you only emerges when you stop outsourcing your becoming. You were never meant to be average. You were meant to be awake, fully alive, fully responsible, fully empowered. So take your place, not in comfort, but in calling, not in perfection, but in purpose, not in safety, but in self-mastery. Because the truth is this, no one can do the work for you. But once you do it, no one can take it from you. And once you've done the work once, you've bled in silence, cried in solitude, risen without applause, what you carry inside you becomes untouchable. You will walk differently, you will speak differently, not louder, but with more gravity, not to impress, but to express. The fire in your eyes won't be from anger or ego, will be from knowing what you've endured and, more importantly, what you've chosen not to run from. You will become immovable, not because you've never been shaken, but because you chose to plant yourself when everything told you to fall. This is not about chasing success. It's about becoming the kind of person success is drawn to. Not because of your appearance, not because of your resume, but because you are grounded, clear, committed. You don't negotiate with your standard. You don't dilute your purpose to be palatable. You don't shrink to fit into rooms that were never built for your destiny. You build the room, you raise the ceiling, you set the tone. That is what the inner work creates. Not just results, but radiance. A presence that cannot be faked, bought, or borrowed. A depth of being that says, I have wrestled with myself, and I did not tap out. People can feel it. The strength of someone who is whole, someone who has confronted their demons and shook their hand, someone who does not need the world to validate them because they have validated themselves through execution. You see, discipline is not restriction, it's liberation. Focus is not sacrifice, it's alignment. And healing is not weakness, it's the foundation of power. But none of that happens by accident. You don't stumble into clarity, you fight for it, you unlearn for it, you get uncomfortable for it. You step away from the noise and into the unknown, not because it's easy, but because it's necessary. You become someone who runs toward responsibility, toward feedback, toward friction, because you know that pressure is not the enemy, it's the proving ground. The diamond is not born in light, it is born in pressure, in darkness, in time. So are you. And once you embrace that process, the pace of your life will change. Not because the world slows down, but because you speed up. You get sharper, more intentional, more decisive, less impressed with distraction, less tolerant of delay, because you understand what most never will. That success is not the accumulation of things, it is the alignment of self. And alignment requires honesty, ruthless, raw, radical honesty with who you are, who you've been, and who you are becoming. You can't lie your way into a better life. You can't fake your way into fulfillment. You can't dress up dysfunction and call it destiny. You must strip it all back, lay it bare, and decide what stays and what goes. That belief, does it serve you or sabotage you? That relationship, does it expand you or exhaust you? That habit, does it build your vision or bury it? You don't need more information. You need more introspection, because no level of outer achievement will ever compensate for inner confusion. And clarity doesn't come from doing more, it comes from becoming more aware. Aware of your patterns, aware of your triggers, aware of the gap between what you say you want and what you're actually building. Because let me be clear, you are always building something. The question is, you building your future or reinforcing your past? Every choice, every minute, every thought, it's either constructing the life you desire or cementing the one you're trying to outgrow. There is no neutral. There is no pause button on your evolution. You're either drifting or driving, surrendering to momentum, or sculpting your future with conscious intention. And when you truly get that, when it lands not just in your mind, but in your spirit, you will stop waiting for permission. You will stop asking, can I do this? And start declaring, I will do this because I must. You will no longer seek comfort. You will seek clarity. You will no longer fear failure. You will fear regret. You will no longer look for a savior. You will become your own. That is what the work on yourself creates. Not perfection, but power. Not invincibility, but indestructibility. A way of being that bends circumstances to your will because you've already conquered the chaos within. And when you live from that place, everything changes. You walk into rooms and people feel it. You speak and people listen not because you shout, but because your words are born from experience, not theory, from alignment, not performance. You become a lighthousenaut, a lifeguard. You don't chase people, you attract them. You don't force respect, you embody it. Because the real work is magnetic, and it's always visible to those who've done it. So when you feel like quitting, when you feel like it's too much, when you feel like the mountain is too high and the road is too long, remember this: you don't have to do everything today, but you do have to take responsibility today. Responsibility for your choices, responsibility for your mindset, responsibility for the life you are actively co-creating, because no one else will. They can cheer for you, they can guide you, they can even walk beside you. But the steps are yours. And every step you take, every honest, hard, humble step is rewriting your story. Not the story of what happened to you, but the story of who you chose to become in spite of it. That is the sacred work, the eternal work. The work no one sees, but everyone feels. And as you walk this path, as you choose growth over comfort, truth over denial, purpose over pleasure, you begin to realize something most people never will, that the reward for doing the work on yourself is becoming someone who no longer needs to escape their life. You no longer need to numb, to run, to hide, to perform. You don't need the applause, the validation, the comparison. You don't need to be seen to be secure. You don't need to be understood to feel whole, because wholeness was never outside of you. It was waiting in the silence, in the sweat, in the commitment you kept to yourself when no one else was looking. And that's where your freedom lives, not in the outcome, but in the ownership. Ownership of your energy, ownership of your boundaries, ownership of your dreams. No one can take from you what you've built on the inside. No market crash, no betrayal, no rejection, no external storm can shake the fortress you forged in the fire of your own becoming. But that fortress doesn't build itself. You must choose it daily. You must choose your morning. Choose your thoughts. Choose your words. Choose your rituals. Choose your responses. Choose your environment. Choose your identity. And every time you choose from alignment instead of autopilot, from vision instead of validation, from growth instead of gossip, you cast a vote for the future you are becoming. That's how you build a life you don't need to escape from. One decision at a time. One honest moment at a time. And it won't always feel good. Growth rarely does, but it will feel real. And in a world drunk on illusion, real is a revolution. You don't need more motivation, you need a mirror. You don't need another guru, you need to trust your own inner compass. You don't need to hustle more, you need to align more. And alignment begins with integrity. Integrity with your values, with your vision, with the future you say you want. So ask yourself, are your actions an apology for your past or a declaration of your future? Because every action is a prayer. Every thought is a seed. Every habit is a vote for the life you want or the life you fear. And the truth is, it's working. Whether you see it or not. Whether you believe it or not. Whether you feel ready or not. The seeds you plant today become the fruit you feast on tomorrow. But only if you water them. Only if you protect them. Only if you trust that the invisible is still inevitable. If you don't quit. And that's what separates the dreamers from the doers. Not luck. Not talent. Not timing. But this simple, unshakable decision. I will not betray myself again. That decision, when made from the core, when backed by action, will burn away everything that doesn't belong in your life. The distractions will fall away. The noise will fade. The fear will lose its grip. And what remains is you. The real you. The powerful you. The healed, whole, grounded, unbreakable you. The you who no longer waits. The you who no longer begs. The you who no longer compromises your worth to be liked or accepted or seen. The you who knows that you don't need to do more, you need to become more. Become the one who shows up, regardless of the mood. Become the one who chooses consistency over chaos. Become the one who walks with vision while others drift in confusion. Become the one who makes discipline their default and excellence their expectation. Because that version of you, they already exist. They are not somewhere in the distance. They are buried underneath the layers of delay, of doubt, of distraction. And the work you do on yourself is how you set them free. So don't just dream it. Don't just talk about it. Don't just plan it. Live it. Become it. Own it. Because no one can do this for you. And once you do it, no one can undo it. And when that moment comes, when you've carved away everything false, when you've stared down your demons and refused to flinch, when the old you is nothing more than ash at your feet, something extraordinary happens. You don't just evolve. You ignite. You become the flame, not the moth. You stop chasing light and start being it. You no longer need to convince anyone. Your life becomes the evidence. Not the speeches, not the quotes, not the hopes, but your presence, your posture, your precision. You become a signal to others of what's possible. Not by being perfect, but by being real. Not by arriving, but by walking every day with clarity, with hunger, with relentless self-respect. And people will ask, how did you do it? And you will smile not because it was easy, but because it was worth it. You'll say, I stopped waiting for someone to do it for me. I stopped selling myself short. I stopped begging life to be easy and started asking me to be stronger. Because the truth is, life will never be easier. But you can become better, wiser, sharper, bolder. Not through luck, not through waiting, but through work. The kind you can't fake, the kind you can't delegate, the kind that leaves a mark not just on your calendar, but on your character. And once you've done it once, you've built you. There's no going back. You can't unlearn your power. You can't unknow your worth. You can't unfeel the fire of a life lived with full intention. That's what all this is for. Not a moment of applause, not a trophy on the shelf, but that look in your own eyes that says, I didn't run from myself. I met me. You want to live fast? Then live real. Live raw. Live rooted in something deeper than convenience. Live in pursuit of becoming, not impressing. Live in truth, even when it's inconvenient. Live in discipline, even when it's thankless. Live in alignment, even when no one else understands it. Because when the dust settles, when the noise dies down, when the world stops spinning for just a second, it won't be your followers, your titles, your metrics that define you. It will be this. Did you show up for you? Did you become the person no one else could create for you? Did you choose the pain of growth over the illusion of safety? Did you do the work only you could do? Because that is the work that changes everything. You can't hire it. You can't hack it. You can't fake it. You can only become it. So become it and never, ever look back.